All right, so time to start our last Tic Tac Toe video. So this is part 5, where we are now going to set up the ability to restart the game from scratch and also handle a draw or a tie game here. All right, so we got a few things to put into it, and we'll do it all in this one video, and then that'll be it. All right, so far we're looking good though. We got a nice game going. All right, so let's first work with what happened. So if you remember in our last video, we put this play again button. That again, it's hidden right now, but when the game's over, remember we set up the code here that it's going to show up again. So if the user presses that button, again, we should have hooked that up to an action down below here. If not, just make sure you've got an action for play again pressed. Again, that is talking about this button, split view, just so we're all on the same page here. Talking about here. Okay, so make sure we have that action set up and good to go. All right, let's get to it. All right, so we're going to be pretty much all in code here or in the view controller file today. So the first thing we need to do, all right, is basically, so we got to just reset everything back to what happened at the start of the game. So the first thing we're going to do is, remember, a game state when this app loads up is zeros, all zeros here. And then as we go through the game, we start changing that to a bunch of ones or twos just based on when it's getting pressed. So we need to reset that back to 0. So to do that, we're going to go game state, all right, and then we're just going to go ahead and, just like we did at the beginning, put our zeros in here. Okay, so we got to put 9 zeros, so make sure you count those out. So we got 9 in there. And actually what I'm going to do, just to save myself some time here and also less chance of error, I'm just going to come up top here and copy that. So I'm going to go Command C, Command V, and we're good on that. Okay, so that's the first thing we want to reset here. Okay, all right, next thing we want to do, okay, is we want to set game is active to true. So remember, game is active when the game opens up is equal to true. All right, then when we go through and we get a, if we hit a winning combination, we set game is active to false and then tell them who wins there. So we just need to go ahead and say game is active is now true. All right, because we've hit the reset button, the play again button, it's true. Okay, and then next thing, all right, so now we got to have our active player reset. So again, active player, again, when the game opens up is 1. All right, and then as we go through and start taking our turns, it's flipping back and forth between 1 and 2. So in this case, we're going to set that equal back to 1. Okay, so 1 will be the active player, our X's. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and play again button dot is hidden. All right, we'll set that back to hidden. Okay, so we want that to not be on the screen. So those 4 things are going to go ahead and again, that'll kind of reset our game back to the original point. But then we also need to clear the game board, all right? Because obviously we're going to have a bunch of X and O's on the board. If we restart, we want those to go away. Okay, so to do that, okay, we're going to stay within the same play again function here. So when we press this button, all these different things are going to happen. Okay, so to do that, all right, we're going to do a for loop. So we're going to say for, okay, I, and I'll explain what this means in a moment here, in 1, and as you type that in for I in 1, 3 dots, 1, 2, 3, 9. So basically it's a range 1 through 9. So what we're going to check for, I remember all the way back when we started this project, we gave each of our buttons a tag, all right, 1 all the way down to 9. All right, so we're going to use those tags to help reset and clear out the image here. So first we're going to go through and we're going to loop through, and basically we're going to kind of create a new button here based on the tag that's going to be empty. Okay, so we're going to create a new button that has the tag, and it's going to connect it to the game board. So to do that, we're going to create a constant called letButton, and then we're going to set that equal to view.view with tag, and then we can set that equal to I. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going to this constant button is going to be a view that has a tag, and it's going to be either 1, 2, 3. So as it loops through, it's going to create a button each time. So 1, 2, 3. And that's what's happening on this range. Now we want to make sure it's a button, so we're going to cast it explicitly as a UI button. Okay, so then that thing's good to go. So from there, now that we have a button that's going to be associated with one of the tags on our game board, we can go ahead and we can set the image of that button. So we're going to go button.setImage. Now if you are not getting set image here, that means you did not cast it as a UI button, so just double check that you have that here. And then since we want this to be blank, we can just type in nil here, and then UI control states dot control state dot normal. Excuse me. Okay, so nil again because we want it to be blank, so nothing needs to go there. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see how this looks here. Okay, so let's run it. Let's make sure that we are have our things where they need to be, and if it's all good, then we'll move on to the last part, which is handling a tie, kind of our cat's game, if you've ever called it that before. So let's check first so to make sure our reset stuff is taking place here. And if there's any issues here, we can troubleshoot together, but I think we're going to be all right. But again, it's always good to check to make sure everything is operational. All right, so as that's loading up here, I'm just going to do a quick check of my connections just to make sure. Yeah, we're good here. Yep. Okay, so here we go. Moment of truth. There we go. Okay, so let's just get ourselves a winner here. X is 1. I'm going to play again, and there we go. All right, so again, the screen is cleared. The button has gone away, and we can now play again. So we'll give O a chance to win here. All right, O is 1. Play again. So now what you could do if you wanted to, you could obviously change this label to something else when you're playing again there. Leave that up to you. You don't need to do that, but that's something you could do. But we're pretty close to being done. Okay, so we've got our gameplay. So now the only thing we need to be able to do here is what happens here. Yep. If we get this draw here. Okay, so oh shoot, I messed that up. X1. Okay, but again, you can see if I can. As we set up a game here. We got to put our, yeah, I'm just too good at Tic Tac Toe. But we all know what a draw looks like here. Obviously, again, we're going to have a game where everyone's, all these squares have been filled in. All right, and then from there, we can't get ourselves, what needs to happen here to, to let ourselves, move on. All right, so the code for this isn't too complex here. All right, so let's bring back up Xcode here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop that. You can see when we come back here what we need to do. All right, so let me get rid of that. All right, so what we're going to do, so to do this, we're going to go handling a draw. We're going to do this inside here. Okay, so inside our original button pressed function. All right, so we're going to basically put all our code after this winning combination loop. So I'm just going to clean that up here. All right, so we're going to go right after, let's see, we want to put this, within the for loop here. Actually, we're going to put it below. So right below the second curly brace of the for loop, we're here. So again, remember what's happening as we go through here. Again, we're looking at it. We're setting, let's see here. Yeah, so we're in the right. So I'm just making sure we're in the right spot so I don't, do this wrong and then we got to redo it. So again, we've already done all this. We've checked the code to get our winner and loser. All right. So what happens if there is a tie? Okay. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to say game is active is going to be equal to false. Okay. So basically, why we're going to say that is that again, because if none of this stuff has happened here, okay, again, the game still, we've got an issue here. Okay. So again, if there's not a winner or loser, we got to figure out how to say there's a tie. So we're going to start by saying that we're going to stop game from being active. Okay, so we're going to figure out if there's a draw or not there. So we're going to do another for loop. So we're going to say for I in game state. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of loop through the game state, kind of like we've done before here, just to see where we're at. All right, we're going to see if there's any empty spots left on the game board. All right, okay, so if there is a 0 left on the board, okay, game is still active. Okay, so we're going to say that. So for the if statement, it would look like this: if I is equal to 0. Okay, so that's going to say if there is a 0 still left out there, okay, game is active is now going to be equal to true, and then we'll just break, which means we're going to get out of this for loop. Okay, so that's the first part. Okay, so we're just going to check to see if there's any spots left on the game board, and that's what this for loop will do. It'll look to see if there's any openings or any squares left. So if there's squares left, keep playing. So the code's going to come down, down, down. It's got we've got open squares left. It'll come back to the top, down, down, down. So it's going to keep coming down and then back up here and kind of going through all this code every time we press the button. Okay, so on every button press, it's going to do these three things. It's going to go X or O. It's going to see if we have a winning combination. If there's not a winning combination, do we have a button left to put a thing on? If we do, hit the button again. If not, we've got a tie. So if there's no winner or loser, and there's not a square left in the game board, means we have a tie. So if it didn't find a 0 on the game board, we have a tie. Okay, so to do that, we're going to say if game is active is false. Oops. Okay, so now that's why we set this one to false here. Okay, so we decided to say after we've checked for the winner, we're going to quickly change game is active to false. Okay, so now again, like we said, if the game's still active, if there's still spaces to play, we'll set it back to true. But if not, that means it's still false. Okay, so if it's false, that means that we did not find any openings. Okay, so then we are going to say it's a draw. So we can say label status, or what do we call our label on this one? Status label. Okay, status label dot text is going to be, it's a tie, or however you want to word that. All right. Play again button dot is hidden is now equal to false, because we need that to show up because we want to restart the game. Okay, so that's the code right there to handle a draw or a tie. All right, so let's see if I can get this thing to be a tie here. All right, and hopefully we can make it work, and I can, I gotta just not be so good at Tic Tac Toe, I guess, right? But either way, though, let's run this up, check it out, and then after that, that's it, guys. So we've got 5 parts, of Tic Tac Toe, and I think again, if you were able to get this to all work up here, you'd be pretty happy with that. Proud of the work you put into it. Again, maybe this is some game logic that you could use in your own projects, or maybe start thinking about a game you could create that has a similar concept to this, maybe like a Connect 4 or something like that, or a memory game. But first things first, let's try this out. All right, so we'll put O here. Let's throw an X here. Let's throw an O there. I'll put an X here. Let's put an O in this spot. Let's put an X here. Okay, so I think we're going to be okay, because I can go X here. I can go O. Oh, yeah, there we go. So it's a tie. All right, play again, and we're back to it. So again, the only thing you might want to format on your own is just changing that to say something else when the game restarts, like new game, good luck, have fun. All right, but outside of that, though, guys, that's it, man. All right, so good job, working through this. Again, here's the the screen with the code here. Again, like I said, as I kind of scroll down slowly here to show you it again, you want to pause it at different points to check out where your app is at if you're having any issues. But again, as always, just feel free to call me over. We can take a look at it. So great job. Go ahead, if you are done, you can submit that and turn it in, and then we'll get on to some new stuff here next week. All right, guys.